sleeping bag in the car. If there was no room in the house, she could camp out or find a bed elsewhere. No biggie. Being a restless soul living on the road was her chosen life, not because she was unhappy or discontent, merely fiercely independent and filled with the need to wander, explore, and paint. The latter, often related by her Grandma Thorne in past times, apparently inherited from a well-known and talented artist ancestor. Which thought always drew out the guilty feelings again, which Piper readily acknowledged, but usually managed to quickly douse like campfire coals to stop them spreading out of control. As always, at such family gatherings, she would do her best to ignore the dark glances and stares of unfair accusation and unforeseen burden she was fated to endure. As she climbed the back steps, casserole container in hand, Piper breathed deeply, turned the knob and opened the door. Hit with the loud hum of voices and activity, her ebony-eyed gaze flashed swiftly about the open living area to settle on her father. As the oldest bereaved son, it was her duty to go to him first. She set down the casserole in the kitchen, sparing a brief glance of acknowledgement for her mother as she passed, ignoring the other womenfolk gathered there, aware that all attention focused on her arrival. She would speak to them all later. The cluster of men standing around her father, beers in hand, all respectfully stepped aside for the oldest child, watching the reunion. Jimmy Thorne reached out for his daughter, wrapping her in a long, warm hug of welcome. No need for words. Never had been. Piper shared an unspoken bond with this gentle, hard-working man. "You made good time," he murmured in her ear, allowing her the grace of moments for her quiet sobs to ease. Until now she had found her grief impossible to express, but the mere touch of her father's big arms safely around her unlocked the flood, and as always, he waited patiently for it to subside. When he sensed she was recovered and ready, he slowly pulled away. The surrounding men began to murmur their sympathies to Piper with a nod or touch, and she quietly accepted them. As she left her father's side and moved back across the room toward the kitchen, she darted a side glance. She glared for the shortest moment at her male cousin Cohen, who she had learned from painful experience to mistrust. But she was disappointed and concerned to see her younger, impressionable brother, Yaron, in his group. Piper knew, coward that Cohen was, although he may not be directly looking at her, he was beyond aware of her presence in the room. That was enough. Eagle-eyed, the bad seed in the family, the tolerated rebel. She was not really surprised that he was here. Her father would have felt bound to allow it. If any person stained the family name and reputation, it was Cohen. He alone was responsible for Piper's internal struggle each time she returned home, although most people believed otherwise. For Piper, that broken faith in her honesty cut deep and was the reason she chose to live away. Because family chose Cohen's fake truth over hers. It still rankled that people doubted her word, and he had never been accountable for what he had done. At the time, it had been hers and Cohen's word against each other, his convincing distortion of the facts, convenient alibi, and coercion of witnesses frustratingly tipping opinions in his favor. To anyone outside the family, the theft may have been considered merely unfortunate and no particular blame cast, but the rarity and cultural significance of the treasured Thorne family artifact that had disappeared back then lay like a gaping, unspoken wound among her mob. The insinuated responsibility and unjustified accusation